I'm Dr. Scott Little, and I am a chiropractor blessed and privileged to care for people of all ages and animals of a variety of size and species. I direct the organization, the Foundation for the Advancement of Chiropractic Principles and Freedom. That's a private membership association, a faith-based organization. And I teach light force adjusting methods featuring the interface chiropractic analysis. And I make this video because I will post videos and images of me adjusting primarily animals, but sometimes humans, and people will see me scanning the patient with this device and ask, what is that? How does that work? And some will say, is that a toughness instrument? And I want to explain that and address that because ultimately the answer is no, but certainly requires a little bit of explanation. At the day that I'm recording this, I started chiropractic college at Logan College of Chiropractic 33 years ago today. That's 12,054 days ago I started Logan College. And the one thing that I got from Logan that I am more excited about than anything was my introduction to the life, the legacy, the professional contributions of one Dr. Ian Toughness. I never got to meet the gentleman. He died about 15 months prior to me starting Logan, but his legacy was rich at Logan. Logan Basic Technique was one of the primary techniques taught, and yet the two instructors of Logan Basic were part of the toughness research department and really did toughness technique in their practice. President Dr. B. Hagan also was a toughness practitioner, I believe, vice president, then to be president while I was in school. Dr. George Goodman was a toughness practitioner, and many of the old timers, you could go into their office and they would have toughness instruments in their practice. And Dr. Toughness was actually a Palmer graduate, 1932, but then to date, 24 members of his family are chiropractors, and the majority of them went to Logan College. Some went to Northwestern and Lincoln College when it was in existence, and one in Chicago. It doesn't matter. Anyway, but most of them went to Logan. And so he was very well respected at Logan College, and his technique was a blend of what he learned and as a 1932 graduate from Palmer about the upper cervical spine. And then in 1933, which was actually 2 years prior to Logan College coming into existence, he was studying under H.B. Logan and learned the importance of a light force sustained contact, especially on the sacrotuberous ligament, and the importance of the sacrum and pelvis. And again, that light force sustained contact. So his approach was really a blend of the importance of the upper cervical with this sustained light force contact. And he began teaching his methods in 1936, just about 4 years or so after he graduated from Palmer. And he would share with his students what he was feeling, and his students weren't feeling what he was feeling. And he created a device that was later called the Toughness Radiation Detector, ultimately patented in December of 1971. And the radiation detector, you can see in the background, and the patent, if we were to read it together, you would understand that his theory, his hypothesis, was that in the presence of a subluxation, there is a neurologic disturbance that creates a radiation of microwave radiation that is at the 69.5 gigahertz level that we can't really feel with our hands. But he created a device that was a system of cones and lenses. This is his patent drawing, and in the bottom of the device is a cone that sends the radiation up through these lenses that amplify it. And then there is a rubbing plate. And his theory or his proposal was that the texture of the rubbing plate would change in the presence of a subluxation emitting the 69.5 gigahertz radiation, going through the apparatus of the device, changing the texture so that when the practitioner rubbed it, there was a squeaky noise that was produced. I'm not saying that Dr. Toffness was wrong. I would humbly submit that his argument was too focused on the instrument and what it did as opposed to the practitioner, and really the ability of the practitioner to use the lens only to monitor his or her own electrodermal activity or galvanic skin response. I would argue that none of the cones or lenses or apertures or any of that really played a role in what the practitioner was finding, but rather the physiologic responses that were occurring as a result of the practitioner taking in sensory information, the heart brain, the gut brain, the head brain, the five senses, additional senses like neuroception, proprioception, interoception, common sense, and all these different senses that we have going into the central processing unit of the brain, and there being a physiologic response, a sympathetic response that occurs throughout the body, but especially in areas of increased sweat gland activity like the fingertips, the palms, the soles of the feet. So my argument or suggestion is that the way the device works is that it serves as a simple monitor for a practitioner to monitor their own subtle energetic changes that are occurring best or easy to monitor in their fingertips as it relates to their clinical judgment and decision-making process. And it turns out that electrodermal activity has been measured as a biofeedback measurement like heart rate variability, muscle tone and tension, skin temperature, brainwave activity, respiration, etc. Electrodermal activity has been used by scientists since the 1920s in things like lie detection, or psychologists now use it to study judgment and decision making. And I would just argue that we as chiropractic practitioners can use this physiologic response as part of our clinical judgment and decision making process. I would argue that this is an app that you didn't know that you had, that came loaded from the factory. God gave you this, and every single second of the day, there have been subtle fluctuations in the electrodermal activity, the sweat gland activity, this autonomic sympathetic response. We studied the autonomic hierarchy in polyvagal theory and how we're in constant flux of parasympathetic, sympathetic, etc. And that results, or that can be measured and monitored through the sweat gland activity in our fingertips if we only knew that it was occurring. I would argue that every time you're an upper cervical practitioner and you've run a graph and the graph was in pattern, you got a sympathetic response. And every time that it was straight or what you wanted it to be, you got perhaps a parasympathetic response. Every time you did a leg length analysis, you got a autonomic response. Every time you did a muscle test, you got an autonomic response. And it may look weird watching somebody to scan a patient and you hear the squeaks and so forth, but I would argue that it probably looked weird the first time that Dr. Van Rump introduced leg length analysis, or Dr. Deerfield introduced leg length analysis, or people saw Dr. Four doing leg length analysis, or Dr. Goodhart doing muscle testing and so forth. All of these systems of analysis are interfaces between the practitioner and the practitioner's educated mind and the practitioner's innate intelligence and the patient's innate field and intelligence. There is a collaboration of information that takes place. I call this device the interface, and the reason is that an interface is the point in which multiple systems, organizations, or people come together to collaborate. Your keyboard is how you communicate with your computer. Your mouse is an interface with your computer software. Leg length analysis is an interface with the patient's innate intelligence. Muscle testing is, and so is monitoring of electrodermal activity. So I call this device the interface. I put a period after the I and the N to pay tribute to Dr. I.N. Toffness and the contribution that his work was in my life. But this really is not a Toffness radiation detector. The interface is a simple electrodermal monitor. It doesn't have any cones or lenses or apertures or focusers. It's literally a lens of polycarbonate stretched over a drum head, placed on a handle, placed on a stick. It's really just a drumstick. It is a very simple, non-electric device. Of course, we study the electrical system of the body and piezoelectricity and energy fields and so forth. But as a device, is it a Toffness instrument? Technically, no. Is it similar? Not based on Dr. Toffness's explanation of how his device worked, but based on our understanding of physiology, then yeah, it's probably a little bit similar. And to an untrained viewer, then it would look similar. I will tell you that this has been my secret sauce in practice for 30 years. It has been what I have used as part of my chiropractic analysis, regardless of size or species of the patient. And boy, has it come in, proved its value when I have had the opportunity to check and adjust infants. And it's been my secret sauce in my animal practice. I don't teach Toffness technique. I would be honored to call what I do Toffness if Dr. Toffness's family would allow me to. I would love to call what I do the Toffness legacy analysis. What I do call it is light force adjusting methods for people and animals, and I call my use of this device the interface chiropractic analysis. And I would be honored to teach you how to use it and get this equipment into your hands. Our mission is to foster confidence, competence, and certainty in the basic and fundamental principles, the philosophy, art, science, and professional objective of chiropractic applied to people of all ages and animals of all sizes. And this device has been what has increased my confidence, competence, and certainty in my approach to chiropractic for now 30 years. And I would be honored to share it with you.